Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this evening's Education USA Ghana Facebook Live event. It keeps getting better every week. We are in August and school applications have started in earnest. But this year is very different and unique. The times have changed. We are right in the middle of the COVID-19 epidemic. Should we have the courage to apply to schools? I'll say a big yes, but how do we start? We have the Director of Recruitment of Pomona College with us to take us through the impact of COVID-19 on applying to college this year. She'll also take us through how to find our financial fit. My colleague, Bernice Afote, is with us from the US Embassy, and we have the Director of Recruitment of Pomona College, who is Ms. Ashley Pauly with us. My name is Marilyn Owusu. I'm an educational advisor at Education USA Kumasi. I'll host the program this evening. As we go through the session, I'd want you to type in all your questions. It will be two different sessions. First, on how to apply during this COVID time. The second session would be the financial fit. And then the last session will be a Q&A where we can answer all your questions. So I'd want to hand over to Ms. Ashley Pauly to take us through the whole session. And then I'll see you at the end when she's done. Ashley, take over from now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for the opportunity to be with you here today. I'm going to share my PowerPoint now so that we can spend some time together. So as was stated, my name is Ashley Pauly and I am the Director of Recruitment at Pomona College, which is out in Claremont, California. And we will talk about three things today, which is the impact of COVID on higher education and applying to college, more information about financial aid, and then also some information about Pomona College. And I absolutely want to leave some time for us to have deeper conversations. And I should also say that I have been in college admissions for about 13 years now, and I have traveled to sub-Saharan Africa 6 or 7 times. The last time I was there was in October of last year for a conference in Johannesburg, and I was supposed to be in Ghana this past May, but everything kind of came to a halt, as we all know, and I'm deeply saddened because I love going back to sub-Saharan Africa. So let's talk first about the impact of COVID-19 on applying to college. There have been many impacts that I would love to discuss with you. First off, I think it's really important to remember that it is a pandemic, which means every single person in the entire world is experiencing this in lots of ways. In the United States, we are experiencing it in ways that you haven't yet. In sub-Saharan Africa, in that we are not controlling the virus as well as we could or should. And we're almost at 5 million cases here in our United States and over 150,000 deaths. And I have been at home for over 20 weeks now and will not return to my office in all of 2020. And that is the case across much of this country, much of the United States. And so we understand what COVID is like. We're all experiencing it together. So I think that's one of the big things to remember, is that this is not just something that is only being experienced in Ghana. It is something that everyone understands. And so how it specifically impacted higher education. So we know that the SAT and the ACT, that testing options have dramatically shifted, that there was this hope that there would be take-home SATs in the spring and in the summer, and they decided not to move forward with that, that colleges have had to completely revamp and rework the ways in which they're working with testing. And many schools, over 1,400 schools, are now test optional in the United States. We have about 4,000 colleges and universities in the United States, and over 1,400 of them are now testing optional. So you have many options available, and recognizing that. Delayed national examinations. I receive emails from students around the world all the time, and specifically from sub-Saharan Africa, who are saying that their country has delayed the national examinations, that grading was not possible in the spring or the summer, that they don't don't feel prepared yet for the national examinations, that everything is kind of shifted for them in the end of their secondary school as they were preparing for college and going on to university. There are fewer opportunities to engage in activities. So we have entire pages devoted to extracurriculars and how to engage with colleges and say that you are an active member of society. But if you're stuck at home for months and months on end, how are you supposed to engage in any of those activities? And you should recognize that we're all stuck at home as well. I leave my house maybe once a week. And so completely understand how that is impacting you all. And then also the incredibly important part about mental health stressors. We understand that families are being disrupted, that that everything that we have all known as what it means to be a part of a society and a part of a global community, all of that is shifted. Now, some positives to that are that I'm able to do a virtual session with you all. There are more virtual opportunities, and that even though colleges are not able to visit your home country physically, we're doing so much more to visit your countries virtually and try to engage students. But everything has changed. Everything has changed, and we recognize that in so many ways. So what are my tips? My tips for these very uncertain times: please understand what test optional means for each school that you're applying to. Many institutions in the United States have gone test optional, and that means slightly different things for different institutions. So for me at my school at Pomona, it literally means we do not expect students to have testing. Some students will have it, most students will probably not have testing, and we do not expect you to travel or to leave your country to go and try to find another alternate exam, or to travel for hundreds of kilometers, or any of those sorts of things. We recognize these, it's very uncertain times, and we do not have expectations that you will find a way to test. Second, engaging in virtual visit opportunities. Every school that you are interested in has found ways to turn their campus tours online, to have ways that you can engage with admissions officers and with current students. And we have at Pomona a monthly program every single month through December, where you can learn specifically more about Pomona and engage with hundreds of members of the communities from all across the world. We'll be asking questions, and this is a really reflective time for you to think about: how have you spent your time outside of class? How did you spend it prior to COVID? And how are you spending your time outside of class during COVID? And recognizing that 2020 is one year that has been a substantial year for all of us, but you have been a whole person before this time, right? In your secondary school and in just the life that you have lived. And so there were things that you were excited about and passionate about and doing before COVID, but you might not have been able to continue during these events and these things in 2020, but that does not mean that those things do not matter. And so talking about those things in your application and talking more about your passions and enthusiasm for things is really important. We also ask, do you have new or expanded responsibilities? Are there new hobbies? How are you using your time during this time? And it's okay to not have a lot of things. It goes back to the mental health piece, that we recognize that for many of us, it's the day to day. We are all just trying to survive in lots of ways. But for some of us, like, we have new responsibilities. Maybe you're at home with your siblings or your children or whatever that might look like. Maybe you're helping your family in new ways. Maybe you've gotten a different type of job, or you're contributing to your family in new ways. There are different things that we are doing now, and those things matter. And colleges will want to hear more about how you've spent those times. If you are not doing a lot of things, recognize that taking care of your mental health is important, and we want to know about that as well. So that also matters. Being kind and patient with yourself is absolutely important. And then just remember that we're flexible and understanding on the admissions side of things, because as I said, it's a pandemic. Every single person is experiencing this all around the world. To be honest, in the United States, we're experiencing it to an intensity that most of the rest of the world is not. And so we understand, and we hope to meet you where you are in the process. And so that's what I wanted to say about COVID. It really has changed things for college admissions, but you should recognize that it has also changed things for every single person around the entire world. Next, let's talk about the Common App COVID-19 questions. You will see the question that Common App will ask of all students. when you're applying and you can decide if you want to respond to this question, I would recommend responding to it because I think that everyone has experienced COVID in some way, shape, or form. I had a student ask me last week, well, what if it's been positive? What if I've gotten closer to my parents, or I've just gotten closer to family, or it's just been a more positive experience? Does a college want to hear about the positives or only the negatives? That is such a great question. We want to hear about however COVID has impacted you. And so I think if there have been positives to this situation, that you've gotten closer to your family, or you've been able to take care of your mental health, or you've learned to prioritize the things that are really important to you, I think we would want to hear those things. We also want to hear about the hardships, if there have been hardships, and that's a really important part of this process as well. I also think that 2020 is 1 year in your entire life, and we don't want COVID to be the only thing that you're talking about in your application. We don't want it to be your personal essay and then the COVID-19 question, and we don't want your teachers and your counselors talking about the impact of COVID, and then also all of your supplemental essays. It'll make you come across as very one note, right? It will be like, there's only one thing to know about this student, and it's just how COVID has impacted them, which is not true. This is 1 year in your entire life, and yes, it has had significant impacts, but you are a full person outside of those things as well. And so I think that that's a really important piece. And so use the COVID-19 question as is applicable for you, but do not see COVID as the answer to every single question that you're asked in your application. And with that, I'd also like to talk about paying for college and the importance of finding a financial fit for an institution and wherever you choose to go. It is immensely important that you are looking at what your family can or cannot afford to pay for college and making decisions about the colleges that you choose to go to accordingly. There are many students who fall in love with a college and are really excited about a college and then find out the hard way that they can't afford it. And I think that that can be very devastating for students and for their families. And so choosing a college also means choosing a college that makes the most sense for you financially. So let's talk a little bit about what that means. With financial aid, here are some of the basics. There's two types of financial aid available. There's something called merit-based aid, and there's something called need-based aid. So merit-based aid means that you have something that's meritorious. You have a merit to offer to colleges or universities, and they want to give you scholarships in order to bring that merit to their institution. So what does that mean? That might mean that you are the best test taker, you had amazing scores on your national examinations, maybe you were the best student in your high school, you're bringing some of this academic and intellectual vitality to an institution. Maybe you're really good at sports, maybe you're really good at music or art or a band, or whatever it might be, and a college wants to give you money in order to bring that merit to their institution. That's merit-based aid. It is given to you regardless of how much money your family can or cannot afford to pay for an institution. Then there's need-based aid. Need-based aid is looking just at how much money can your family afford to pay. It's looking purely based on your need. So how much does your family need in order to come to an institution? And so there are a lot of schools, a lot of the highly selective schools only work with need-based aid because they see it as a way of giving all of the resources to the students who need it most, right? And that's going to be an individual number for each student. So financial aid package is going to have three things. So scholarships and grants. So free money you never have to pay back. We love scholarships and grants. We love them so much. Work study. Work study means that you will be working on campus, even as an international student, typically for 6 to 8 hours per week for the 8 months that you are in school. And you make about $2,000 to $2,200 US dollars in that time. So you can work in the library, you can work as a tour guide in the admissions office, you could work doing research in a lab, whatever it is that fits your fancy and the things that you are excited about. And the college will pay you money in order to learn new skills, and that becomes your pocket money to help you pay for books or for toiletries or just the things that you need while you're across the world and experiencing a brand new place, so that you have pocket money that you're able to have. And then loans. Loans are money that you have to pay back. But loans are not inherently a bad thing, right? I think that loans get a really bad rap, but that loans can be good as long as they're They're small amounts, they're manageable amounts. So if you're able to graduate and pay those loans back and still have a full life and be able to do all the things that you want to do in life, then I think that loans can be helpful in helping secure your financial options later in life as you are continuing to move forward. And so I think that that's an important part. So those three things: scholarships and grants, free money, work study, money that you get while working a job, and then loans, money that you have to pay back. And the way that you apply for any of these financial resources in the United States is with something called the CSS profile. And so that asks you questions about your financial resources. And so how does a college decide how to make your finances work? We look at the cost of attendance, and this is a really important mathematical equation that you should be doing as you're deciding where to go to college and how the entire thing is going to work for you. So we take the cost of attendance, which is the total amount of an institution. So for my institution, that's about $75,000 US per year. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. And within that amount of money, it takes into account tuition and fees. It's your meal plan, which we call board, which is a very strange word, but you need to eat when you're on campus. Residence halls, where you sleep, we call that room and board, where you sleep and where you eat. And so those both included. Transportation. Ghana is not close to the United States. It's especially not close to California, which is where my institution is located. And so we take that into account as we're thinking about how you're going to make it to our institutions. Your personal expenses, and also books. Books can be extremely expensive. So you're taking the total cost of attendance of a school. When you're thinking about what school to go to, do not just ask about any of these one things. Don't just say, what is the tuition for this school? You want to ask, what is the total cost of attendance? Because the tuition for my school is in the 50,000s, right? But if you ask the total cost of attendance, it's $20,000 more than what just the tuition is. And so you're not getting a full picture if you're just asking about each individual piece. You want to make sure you're asking about the total cost of attendance. So then you take that full number and you subtract your family's expected contribution and the student contribution. And for every student, that is going to be a very different number. For some families, that number is going to be zero. Your family cannot afford to offer any resources, any money for you to go to college or university. For some families, that might be $50 US, $1,000 US, $10,000 US. It's going to be very different for each individual person. And you just take that number, which each college is going to give you. They're going to say, this is what we think your family can afford to pay. And then they're going to take that number and they're going to subtract it from the total cost of attendance. And that is your need-based, that is what you need. That is how much money you are going to need from an institution in order to pay. So let me give you an example. So say my institution, the total cost of attendance is $75,000 US. Say your family's contribution would be $1,000 US per year. So that means your financial need would be $74,000 US. So you take that number and you see what percentage a college is willing to meet. Some colleges, very few colleges, meet 100% of that need. So if you need $74,000 to go to a campus, there's very few schools that will meet 100% of that need. Some institutions will meet 80% of that need, or 75%, or maybe even 90 or 95%. But that percentage is really important, because what is not met is a gap, which typically students have to take out in loans, which can be very expensive. And particularly for international students, it just becomes challenging because you have a fewer loan opportunities available. So that mathematical equation is just really important when you're thinking about financial fit and you're looking at all of the institutions to which you are applying. So take the total cost of attendance, subtract your expected family contribution, and that is your total need. And then you need to see what percentage of your need a college would be willing to meet. And so with that, those are my comments about both financial need and about applying to COVID. I hope to answer some questions specifically about those things later on. But I also want to give you a little bit more information about Pomona College. So my institution is actually located in Southern California. So we are on the exact opposite end of the United States, just like you are in the westernmost part of Africa. We're in the westernmost parts of North America and the United States, which is a great state of California. When most people think of California and Southern California in particular, they always think of sunshine and beaches, but they often do not think about mountains and snow. And so this is actually a shot of our campus. What you're seeing is the Pomona College campus. And then you see our mountain range in the background. That's about 20 minutes away. And for about 4 months out of the year, we do get snow on our mountain. And we actually have this really great event every year in March where we call it Ski Beach Day, where students will spend the morning going skiing, and then they go to the beach in the afternoon out to Santa Monica and have this really great evening out at the beach. And so we take advantage of the topography of Southern California because there's so much to offer and so much going on at any given time. So this is what the state of California looks like. California is an amazing state. Our state motto is Eureka, which means I've found it. And that kind of motto of innovation and technological advancements and that risk anything, try anything kind of personality of California is very much a part of who we are at Pomona as well. And so we're located about 56 kilometers from downtown Los Angeles. There's actually a train at the base of our institution that can take you right into downtown Los Angeles. They provide you lots of opportunities there. We are about 400 miles away from San Francisco. So there's a couple of things that really ground California. First off, if we were our own country, we'd have the 5th largest economy in the world. And so it's an incredibly large state. It's an incredibly diverse state. We have a lot of resources available. And because of that personality, that Eureka, which I talked about, there have been some things that have really grounded us. So first off, you have the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, and that is where a lot of technology has happened. So you have things like Google and Facebook and Yahoo and Instagram, like all of these made up words that didn't exist before these companies came into existence. And they are run by these incredible technological people who had these crazy ideas where they wanted to connect the entire world, and they believed in the internet and the possibility of us being able to talk from California all the way out to Ghana. And so they came to California because they knew we were a state that believes in innovation and trying anything and risking things and really looking towards the future. And so that's the technology is really the foundation of the technological advancements is founded in California. Second, you have Hollywood, a place where people's dreams come true, right? Where you have these incredible actors and directors and writers who come up with these new worlds, who believe that they're in the power of story making and trying new things and really telling new stories. And that's happening here in Hollywood, right? They came here because they believe that California is a place that really embraces those like advancements and that belief in dreaming about new and different things. And so those two things really are grounding who we are in California. And that innovative spirit is very much a part of the students who are at Pomona. So we take advantage of our surroundings. Like I said, we're about 20 minutes away from the mountains, about an hour and a half away from the high desert, about 2 hours away from the beaches, Santa Monica in particular, and about 2.5 hours away from Mexico. In fact, we have something called 47 things you have to do before you leave Pomona, which includes things like go to Disneyland and go skiing and do all sorts of things, because we believe that when you come out to our institution, you should really take advantage of all of the things that are available in California, because it's a really incredible state. The second thing to know about Pomona is we are part of something called the Clermont Colleges, and that's a really cool thing. So that is 5 undergraduate liberal arts colleges that are all literally across the street from each other. They are Pomona, Scripps, Claremont, Mckenna, Harvey, and Pitzer Colleges. Now, what happened here is that Pomona was founded in the late 1880s, and we were founded to be a standalone institution. We were actually supposed to be a small, intimate institution that had really small faculty to student ratios where you really knew your professors well. And we were founded in the same decade as University of Southern California and Stanford University, which were larger universities that also had things like law schools and medical schools and all of these other sorts of graduate programs. And Pomona wanted to be a little bit different, that we believed that there was something really special about a liberal arts education. But starting in the 1900s, we decided to build something called the Clermont Colleges, which was the idea of building 10 schools in 100 years, one every decade. And we made it to 5 undergraduate schools and 2 graduate universities. And so these are the 5 colleges. They're all literally across the street from each other, which is really neat. So you have Pomona, we're a general liberal arts college, and I'll talk more about us in a second. Scripps College was founded in the 1920s, right after the women's suffrage movement in the United States. So women had just gotten the right to vote in the United States, and we thought founding a women's college made a lot of sense. And so they still are a women's college. Next came Claremont Mckenna College. They were founded in the 1940s. So World War II had just ended. Men were coming home from the war and they wanted to get an education to continue doing some of the amazing things that they had been doing. So it's a very practical type of school. It's a school where they are thinking very deliberately about what is it that I'm learning in the classroom and how will that impact what I'll be doing when I graduate and how it will impact the world. They're big on things like business, banking, and econ. And I wouldn't be surprised if one day the president of the United States comes out of Clermont McKenna College. Next comes Harvey Mudd College. Harvey Mudd was founded in the 1950s. That was the Sputnik race for space era. So every country was trying to be the first to land on the moon. And so we thought it made a lot of sense to build a STEM school. They have only 9 majors, all of which are math, science, and engineering. And they believe very passionately in the importance of STEM, but also your ability to explain STEM to other audiences. And then last to come in the 1960s was Pitzer College. Pitzer was founded in an era in the United States of great civil unrest. The civil rights movement was happening, and there was a lot of just pushing for rights for lots of different types of people who did not have rights in the United States. And so Pitzer is big on those sorts of things. They're big on activism and social justice and environmentalism. They don't believe in traditional majors necessarily, but really in the integration of all of the different things that you're learning in the process of the school that you're attending. So those are the 5 schools. This is what you get out of it. So the 5 schools, you are able to have about 6,000 students who are taking classes together. 2,500 courses are offered each term. So you can take classes and do majors at any of the 5 schools. It's the idea that you really have, you go to one school and you have access to 5. So 5 for the price of 1. There's over 600 different professors who you can take classes with. There's lots of land, there's lots of clubs and organizations. So we find that students, instead of just looking for the class that is most interesting sounding, instead they ask themselves, through which perspective do I want to learn this topic, right? So if I'm taking a class on politics or on government, do I want to take it at Scripps College, which is going to talk maybe more about the impact women have had on politics and government and maybe the places in which they have not been able to lead and how that can be changed? Do I want to take it at Harvey Mudd College, which is the STEM school, which might be talking more about the innovative dynamics of STEM and how that's really changing politics and government and how that will have an impact on the future of races and all of the things that we're doing as countries and societies? Do I want to take it at Pitzer College, which is big on activism and social justice, and environmentalism, and they're going to talk about it very much from that perspective. So you think of, through which perspective do I want to learn this specific topic, and that will completely change the way in which you approach something. And so it's a really dynamic experience to be a part of the 5 colleges. So more specifically about Pomona, we have about 1,700 students on our campus. Our average class size is about 15 students, and our student to faculty ratio is 8:1. So what does that mean? That means that professors purposely chose to come and work at our institution because they believe in students. They want to engage very deeply with students, and they believe that students have a lot to offer. And that means that mentorship is there, that advising is there, that they care a lot about you. It is not uncommon for the first day of class for professors to say, okay, open up your syllabus, but let's also take out our calendars and decide what day you all can come over to my house for dinner, because I just want to get to know you all better, right? My favorite professor, I didn't go to Pomona, I went to another small college within the 5 colleges. But my favorite professor, even though I graduated 13 years ago, is still a really close friend of mine. She came to my wedding, she's held my children. And it's just, when I was applying for graduate school, she was still able to write me a 2.5-page single-spaced letter of recommendation. You get these incredible opportunities to know your faculty really well. And they help mentor you, not just in your 4 years that you're on campus, but also throughout your entire life, because you're going to make lots of decisions about who you are as a person and what you want to continue learning and doing and all of those those things, and they want to help you through that. So they work with you on writing and speaking and critical thinking skills and research. It's not uncommon for faculty for you to just be having a conversation with faculty and them saying, hey, I'm working on this really cool research project. Do you want to join me? It really is that simple to really engage more intellectually and more deeply with your faculty members while you're on campus. The student experience is also a really neat part of who we are and what we're doing on campus. So we're in the city of Claremont, which is only about 35,000 people. So it's a little bit smaller. It's a nice suburb. It's known as the city of trees and PhDs because so many of our faculty live within a 5-mile radius of campus, and they all have PhDs. And so almost 95% of our students live on campus for all 4 years. We also have a first year sponsor program, which is considered like your family when you're away from home. You are matched with different students in the first year class, and you live in the same dorm with them, in the same residence hall. And so 20 to 30 students who are all living in the same hall, who all have something in common, who are going to be your family in your home away from home. Specifically for international students, we have something called the International Student Mentoring Program. And what I've found is that our international students very much feel like they belong to their home institution, but they also are very much a part of the larger 5 college community because they connect with international students from all across the 5 colleges, and people tend to congregate a little bit by their home continent. So it's not surprising that students from sub-Saharan Africa will find each other across the different colleges. Pomona does enroll the most students from sub-Saharan Africa. We enroll 8 to 10 students every year in a class of 415 students. And we always enroll 1 to 2 students from Ghana every year. And so that is definitely, you're going to feel at home in the sense that you'll have a lot of other people who understand you and have had similar experiences to you. There's also just lots of clubs and organizations. So over 250 clubs and organizations that you can be a part of. Within the consortium, there are 2 sports teams. And so one is Clermont, Mckenna, Harvey, Mudd, and Scripps, and they're okay. But the better team is Pomona and Pitzer. So it's a lot of fun because our teams compete against each other and they also compete nationally. At Pomona last year, we had over 2,800 different activities that happened just on our campus. Multiply that by 5, and that's all the activities that are happening across the Clermont Colleges, right? So you can never be bored. Every single day, you can go to 2 lectures and a performance in some way and still not have done everything that's available on campus. And so we think that that's a really important part of who you are and what you're doing. Internships and research. Obviously incredibly important for students. Internships are an opportunity for you to try out different types of jobs and see if you like them. There was one summer where I tried 3 different internships that were all across the United States, and I realized I didn't like any of them. I thought I would. I really did think that I was going to find my passion and I was going to figure out what I was going to do. And I'm really glad that I got to try them out because I realized that that was not, in fact, what I wanted to do with my life. So 84% of students complete an internship in their time on campus. Most students are completing more than 1. That is not uncommon. And a lot of students pursue research either with faculty or across the nation. We have some really great funding opportunities available where we essentially give you $4,000 to $6,000 to go and do research or internships anywhere in the world. At Pomona, we like to ask students, what is it that excites you intellectually? What is it when you are in class that you have that moment where you're like, wow, this is so interesting. I want to pursue it more. And we want to make sure that resources, that money is not a reason why you say no to things, right? So we want to make sure that you have the resources available to pursue the things that you are interested in doing. And so that's definitely a possibility in terms of internships and research that are available. So lastly, let's just talk a little bit about admissions. You'll see our deadlines there on the screen, and we have the Common App and the Coalition app available for our international students. We will be in test optional for 2020 to 2021, and we mean it when we say test optional. We do not think that you should be traveling to try to find another test. If you do not have access to the test, do not take it. We are test optional for this year, and we look very much into the curriculum that you've had. Your national exam scores are a very, very important part of the process for you, for students who are applying from sub-Saharan Africa. And I'm the person who reads your applications and will be reviewing all of those things. And I know Ghana well. And so we think that all of that is really important to the process. And I just want to remind people to be your authentic self, that who you are as a person and is really important, and that should come out in your application, because we don't want you to read as just one note or a little bit flat. We want you to be a vibrant person in your application, just like you're a vibrant person in real life. And lastly, financial aid. I know I talked a lot about finding your financial fit for Pomona. We are need aware for international students, but about 50% of our international students are on aid. The vast majority of our students enrolling from sub-Saharan Africa are receiving a full scholarship to come, meaning we are paying 100% of their need, which is typically the full cost of attendance for the institution, so about $75,000 US. That typically breaks down to about $2,200 in work study money for students and about $70,000 in scholarships and grants, so money you never have to pay back. We do not package students with loans, so there's no money that you ever have to pay back to Pomona because we meet 100% of your need and there are no loans associated with that. So we don't have merit-based aid, it's all based on need. And the average cost of attendance you can see there as well. There's also this really great calculator, so I would suggest you use it. There's about 20 colleges that have this. It's called My Intuition. It asks you 6 questions, and that helps you figure out what your financial need is and also just how you can connect financially with an institution. So you have a little bit more information about whether it's going to be possible for you to have, for you to attend that institution. Oh, and lastly, I'm going to be open to taking questions in just a second, but I think connecting virtually with colleges and universities is incredibly important. So you have my email address down below, but you can also visit our website, and there's virtual Q&As and chats and webinars and all kinds of things that we have going on all of the time at Pomona. So with that, I will turn it back to Education USA for some questions. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Ms. Polly. That was a very good session. I'll try and put the screen off. Stop sharing the screen. Ms. Polly, could you do that for us so that we go straight?
Oh, stop sharing the screen? Yes, absolutely.
Okay. I'll let you bring it back on so that people can take your address when we are wrapping up.
Okay.
All right. Thanks so much for helping us understand that we can still apply to schools during this COVID era. Things may have changed a bit, but admissions are still going on. I have a question here. It says, does Pomona offer an alternative for the CSS profile if students cannot afford the fee?
You can actually write into our financial aid office. That's a really great question. We recognize that the CSS profile is very expensive. And so if you email into our financial aid office, you can receive a waiver for the CSS profile, and you could submit that as well.
Talking about waivers, can we apply for an application fee waiver?
Absolutely. So we are actually going to be rolling out a new policy that essentially, if you on the Common App are reading over all of the ways in which you can have a fee waiver, and instead of needing to go and get verification from your counselor or your teachers or community member, we will just automatically waive your fee. So we're happy to provide fee waivers. You can always write into schools and ask them to waive your fee, and most of them will do it, even if they don't have a policy that's available on their website. But yes, we will absolutely waive.
Really good news for us.
Yeah.
People are having challenges, and the thought of the application fee and applying to quite a number of schools at the same time during this era is quite intimidating. So it's good news for us.
Absolutely.
Okay. A student says, can students participate in study abroad programs during this COVID era?
Oh, so not immediately. So this current class of students who are enrolled on our campus right now in the fall, they cannot, mostly because there's a lot of countries that will not let people from America come to their country because of how COVID is kind of working in the United States. It's not going well here. And so I think that if you're applying this fall and you're planning to enroll next fall, by the time you're eligible for study abroad, the world will have reopened. There will hopefully be a vaccine, that there will be options available. So I think that it's a little bit challenging for the people who are currently enrolled because you can't really go anywhere in the world. But yes, in the future, we do anticipate that our international students absolutely do study abroad. We have a number of places back in sub-Saharan Africa, if you're interested in kind of returning home, if you will. Some of our international students say, I study abroad for school. I would like to kind of have an opportunity to go home while I'm there. And there is a program we have in Accra. or all around the world. So yes, by the time you are applying and enrolling on our campus, it'll be a few years before you can study abroad, but yes, you'll absolutely be able to study abroad.
Thank you. Someone says, can you please elaborate on the programs that Pomona offers?
Like the types of majors?
Yes.
Sure. So we have 48 majors that are available at Pomona. So that ranges from everything from like medieval antiquities and Russian literature to a number of different languages, to biology and chemistry, computer science, economics, public policy analysis, English. It's really a lot of different things. The one thing we don't offer as a traditional program is engineering. We do have a 3-2 engineering program, but it's pretty challenging for our international students to participate. So I would not recommend Pomona as a place for students who are sure that they want to do engineering, because there are, especially if you're going to need financial aid, because essentially you have to enroll at 2 institutions and the other college might not promise financial aid to international students. And so we're not the best fit if you are looking for engineering, but we do have physics and astronomy and math and lots of incredible majors available. About 42% of our students major in a STEM field, and then we have great things across humanities and arts and social sciences as well.
Thank you so much. Ms. Afoti, we have a question for you. Students want to know what Education USA is and how do they get help with the applications?
Okay, thank you. Education USA is a network that is present in 170 countries, including Ghana. Who have an understanding
Let me interrupt you a bit. I think Bernice is frozen, so I'll quickly answer that question. Education USA is a network of educational advising centers worldwide, and it's a network by the US government. Ghana has 2 Education USA advising centers. There's Education USA Accra, which is based at the US Embassy. There's Education USA Kumasi, which is based at AC Consult at Asokwa. Our main role is to help students look for schools in the US, search for schools, search for financial aid and financial assistance. Ultimately, when it comes to going to school, we take you through visa orientation and help guide you through the visa application process, and ultimately take you through a pre-departure orientation so that you can successfully get to schools in the US. So I'm happy Ms. Apote is back, but she was frozen for a while. So I took over. Thanks, Bernice. I'm sure there'll be other questions that will come your way pretty soon. Actually, I'll come back to you. Somebody is asking, is Pomona College on the Common App?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. The next question says, how do I apply for an athletic scholarship when I don't have a complete portfolio because of COVID-19?
Right. So for Pomona, we do not have scholarships for athletes, we are Division III. So there's 3 divisions in the United States. Division 1 is where you can receive an athletic scholarship. So you can receive, it's part of that merit scholarship piece that I was talking about, merit aid, where you have an incredible talent and a college wants to give you resources in order to come. We are Division III, which means we're not allowed to give you scholarships based on athletic talent. And so we only do it based around financial need. However, we do have a recruitment process, and you can be in touch. I'm not sure what sport you play, but you can look on our website and be in touch with our coaches, and they are recognizing that, you know, many students do not have the same portfolio that they would have had. So it's going to depend much more on what you've done prior to COVID, and they can help you and walk you through what that process is going to look like, recognizing that things are different right now.
That's good to hear. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Does Pomona have a supplementary questions on the Common App?
Yes, we do. We have a number of supplementary questions, and they are now live on the Common App as of August 1st. They're also available on our website.
I know you said this, but somebody is asking, so maybe you could quickly summarize it. How do I get a full scholarship as an international student at Pomona?
Yes, you apply with the CSS profile, and we assess your financial need. And then most of the students who are enrolling at Pomona from Sub-Saharan Africa are receiving a full scholarship for the full cost of attendance to come to our institution.
That's good to hear. So right from the onset, they are getting fee waivers for the application. They are getting fee waivers for the CSS profile if they need it. And if they're admitted, there's a high probability they are coming on full ride.
Yes, correct.
They're all coming back to school. All right. Someone is asking, do you require evaluations of documents for admissions?
So, so it depends. It depends. It's not something that tends to be a burden for the students, but we do look, and we have run into situations where a student has not been honest on the documents that they have submitted. And we do have a process of evaluation there, but that does not typically fall on the student.
Okay. Is your campus open this fall to international students?
So no, the college, so the United States is not doing well with COVID-19 at all. And the state of California, which I described as if we were our own country, we'd be the 5th largest economy in the world. We have a lot of people, it's a very dense area. And so most of the state of California is not open. Including our entire secondary school system, what we consider our kindergarten through 12th grade. Many of those communities are online, and that includes Pomona as a higher education institution. So Pomona will be doing all online learning this fall and possibly in the spring, but we do anticipate being open next year for students who are applying this fall.
Students is asking that, are you admitting people for the spring semester? And are you giving scholarships for the spring semester too?
We do not believe we will be doing that, but not 100% sure yet. That would be updated on our website if anything changes, but as of this moment, no.
There's a question on ranking. How is Pomona ranked in the US?
We don't typically focus on rankings, but Pomona is usually between 5 and 7 on the US News and World Report ranking for liberal arts colleges. So highly ranked, usually. We're usually number 1 or number 2 for best financial options and the ability for students to find it financially feasible to attend our institution.
This question says, how will COVID-19 affect international financial aid generally for schools in the US?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I'm not sure. If I was going to speculate, and I must say I don't work at other institutions, I think that it might be a bit harder for schools that have not had a lot of resources for international students, or that might be struggling a bit just with being able to pay for their domestic students or have enough financial aid for their domestic applicants, they might take some of those international resources that were very limited in the first place and reinvest those into their domestic student populations, because they're trying to stay afloat and make sure that they can build the classes that they need. For Pomona, we anticipate no changes. That's the one thing that we definitely want to hold on to, is the importance of the diversity of our international student population. And that requires immense financial resources, and we are committed to having financial aid for international students.
Thanks for letting us know. A question says, how will the test optional policy affect financial aid generally?
So for my institution, I can't speak for other institutions, but if you are admitted to Pomona, 100% of your financial need is met. So if you are admitted, we will meet whatever financial need you have. And so test optional is part of the admissions process, but it won't impact your financial aid.
Someone is asking that, do you have graduate programs? And if you
No.
don't, okay. You've answered quickly.
Yeah, we're undergraduate only. No, that's a great question. We are an undergraduate only institution. So just the 4-year Bachelor of Arts degree.
Okay, they are asking that if you don't, how successful are your students as they apply to other schools in the US for graduate programs?
Yeah, that's a great question. So extremely successful. And so for everything from medical school to law school to all of the different types of things that they want to do. Now, international students have a different course, obviously, because you're applying as an international student to graduate school programs. And we have had success even of our international students attending medical school. So in the United States, like we have a student from Zimbabwe who just recently finished medical school in the United States. And so I think that there are options, and we have a really great career development office, and they work with you not just in your 4 years that you're a student on campus, but the entire life of your entire life. So if you're 50 years old and you decide you want to change your career, you can reach back out to them, and they're happy to help you with that process.
Bernice, I'm coming to you with a question about NOVDEC. You'd be able to explain it better. A student is asking that I have NOVDEC. Actually, Bernice will understand NOVDEC, and I'm sure she'd explain for you to understand. I have NOVDEC. From Form 2, can I use it to apply to Pomona College? Bernice.
Okay, I hope I don't freeze again.
Yeah.
NOVDEC is a private WASI exam that used to be written in the months of November and then December. So
Bernice, you are frozen again. Okay.
They write it in August. Doesn't look like.
Okay, Bernice.
Am I back now?
Yeah, back now, yes. Okay, let me continue. So the student is asking about NOVDEC.
Okay, and then?
Okay, NOVDEC is as good as your WASI results. It's all organized by the West African Exams Council, and they give the certificates. So the WASI is the traditional certificate for schools. NOVDEC is the private exam, still organized by WAEC, which is the West African Exams Council. So to students who are wondering if you can use the private exams, I know most schools accept the private exams, but actually you could talk about that.
I don't think I understand it enough, but if most schools accept it, I'm sure we'd be open to it as well. So.
All right. I think our time is almost up, and I'd want us to wrap up. Last question, Ashley. Someone is asking, do you need students to submit proof of English proficiency?
Only if they have not been taught in English as their primary language in secondary school. So that's typically not something that students from Ghana have to do. since most schooling is in English.
Then it looks like everything favors us. We Ghanaians are planning to go to school at Pomona College. It's been a very good evening. Thanks so much for building our confidence as we apply to schools during this COVID era. I'd want to take our final words. I don't know what you'd want to tell us so that our students get ready and energized to apply.
Yeah, I just say be your authentic self. I think at this point, we want to just know you as a person in your application. And some colleges are going to say, this is such a great fit, who you are and what you're offering to our campus. And we'd love to admit you and have you come to our campus. And some schools will say, you seem really cool, but this is not the best fit for us. And that's okay. Both of those things are okay. Where you're admitted and where you're denied or waitlisted or deferred, none of those things have anything to say about who you are as a person and what your self-worth is. And so I think that that's just something really important to remember, that you're an incredible human being and you have a lot to offer the world, and you just have to find the right college that will see that as well.
Thank you so much. Please, let's try for the last time and see.
Okay. My last words, I will say to our audience to continue to work with Education USA so that they will be adequately prepared for success in the US. We don't only work with students to help them get into schools, but we also prepare them for the entire experience in the US. So continue to work with EducationUSA. Thank you.
To our cherished viewers, thanks so much for joining us this week. As you know, every Thursday, 5 p.m., we come your way with a different school and a different program. Next week, same time, we'll be coming your way with another very interesting session. So make a date with us and join us. For all those who need help as you start your applications, bear in mind that there are 2 Education USA centers in Ghana. There's Education USA Accra, which is based at the US Embassy, Education USA Kumasi, which is based at AC Consult at Asokwa. Get in touch with us and let's help you to adequately prepare and get to the dream schools you want in the US. Thank you. See you next week. Bye.